Great. So let's start the session. Thanks everybody for joining, especially a warm welcome to our panelists. I'll just introduce them, but let me set the context. So welcome to this IT and ITeS CHRO Roundtable, where we move beyond traditional HR responsibilities or work that is done by traditionally HR people and contribute on how HR leaders are now helping solve business problems like project billability, managing bench strength, and engineering a highly productive AI-ready workforce to safeguard margins. So we have a very eclectic panel here with us. I'll introduce them alphabetically. So we have Mr. Abhishek Nag. He's CHRO Fornax. Hi, Abhishek. Great to have you here.
Hi, Amit. Good to be along with this esteemed group of people. Thanks everyone for joining in.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Arti Shetty. She's head HR at Kongsberg Maritime. Hi, Arti. Welcome.
Hello, and glad to be here to hear and share perspectives.
Great. Thanks. Welcome. And we have POP Sudhir Aggarwal ji, CHRO Orbit Techsol. Hi, Sudhir ji.
Hello, Amit. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be part of your panel discussion. Thanks very much. And I'm here to learn from my peers and whatever 2 cents or 2 bits I can add. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Sudhir ji. And we have Mr. Sudipto Mandal, CHRO L&T Metro Rail Hyderabad Limited. Welcome, Sudipto.
Hello, and thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Though currently I'm not completely into IT and ITeS, but I think why Amit requested me to bring in different perspectives from other industry and with my background of IT ITeS before. So let's see how I can do, and probably I'll be learning a lot in terms of what's happening in this segment of late.
Thanks. Welcome, Sudipto. And we have Mr. Prem Kumar, Prem Kumar, Head HR APAC, Omnissa. Welcome, Prem.
Thank you, Amit, for having me join this critical and important conversation at this phase of time. And also, like I think others said, I love to hear and learn from each one. There's so much that's going on, so really excited to be part of this conversation today.
Thank you. Welcome, Prem. And we have Mr. Yashpal Singh, CHRO, Sonovision, Ortec Group. Welcome, Yash.
Hi, Amit, and thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be here. And would love to add, what's there in my thoughts.
Great, welcome. So to start the session, a structural reset has shrunk the industry's aggregate bench by around 20%. So optimizing immediate billable utilization is not only an HR metric anymore; it is a critical boardroom shield to protect shrinking operating margins. So let's start by letting the panelists share their views on this important point, that how are your HR and RMG teams collaborating to optimize utilization rates and reduce bench costs without causing developer burnout? So if I could start in the alphabetical order by asking Abhishek to share his views, please.
Thanks, Amit. So I'll since I get the first chance to speak on this, I'll keep it short and so that we can hear everyone's views. A couple of pointers from it out, and if you look at the journey that we have had with, in general, how the industry has been evolving. The bench management, RMG, HR teams has always been operating in silos, and there's kind of a gradual evolution of a joint collaboration of the utilization, and there are certain things that has been in the vogue now, like joint weekly utilization councils, which focus on how do you look at the utilization from both the perspectives. Then there are a lot of information asymmetry that gets created between these two groups within a large organization, and therefore today with the advent of AI, it creates a lot of shared intelligence, and I call it a shared intelligence layer that helps both these teams operate more collaboratively to proactively address things and get more data around different aspects of management of range, predictive alerts, and then looking at guardrails on how burnout happens. So if you look at there's on one side, uh, utilization is a focus for business because that drives revenue. But then when it hits a certain percentage, you start looking at, is it impacting, is it only being driven by a certain segment, or how does it play alongside with attrition? How is bench time being utilized? Like, more often than not, we try and look at bench time as cost center and then try and reduce it, or there has been a focus in the last decade to utilize the bench time in terms of learning and certification, etc. And then you start looking at that. But then again, certification is an input. The output is whether that has resulted in skill shaped, whether that has resulted in readiness of the people for deployability. And when you start looking at, with the help of AI, when you start using that intelligence layer to look backwards and say that this is my skill inventory, this is my learning quotient, this is my learning inventory of people that we have, and measured in terms of skills and competences, and create a framework around it, it helps know as an organization that what sort of skill level gap that you need to mitigate to ensure more readiness, and therefore utilize the bench better without having a burnout. So that uh, there is certain segment of learning that happens when somebody is on bench and having a so-called idle time, and then gradually picking it up when they're doing the project, maybe aligning the theoretical learning with the practical learning of it. So these two go hand in hand, and therefore I would say this. Uh, I mean, it's measuring and utilization is a single number, but it's a distribution, and once we start looking at a distribution with the safety band and with the burnout and attrition both coupled together, that gives the whole framework of it. Um, then again, there is another aspect that I would say HR is kind of a downstream in a lot of the cases when R&D becomes the margin aspect. But the moment you move HR to an upstream area with the sales as a revenue opportunity, that becomes a different conversation. So that's another piece to look at. And then looking at bench as an R&D pipeline rather than a cost center. So these are my 3 cents to conclude. I'll let others talk about it.
Good point. R&D pipeline. Look at bench as an R&D pipeline. So now, if I could request Arti to share her views on this, please.
Yeah, Amit. So in our case, we are a product-based organization, marine organization. So in our case, utilization is not governed by the typical services or bench model. Our only customer is the internal customers. And having said that, we are a product-based company. So in our case, a practical challenge is the head office prefers to work with known names, trusted faces. So more than utilization is important, but our focus is also, developing and building credibility for talent through consistent delivery, stronger capability, and better visibility for the global team. HR collaborates closely with the stakeholders or the group managers in this case by supporting them, reinforcing sustainable work culture, setting the tone on work-life balance. Group managers allocate work based on individual capacity, business criticality, and also keeping in mind the employee well-being. We being a Schengen organization, that is really in focus. Also, one thing which we adapt is cross-utilization. That is very important for us being a small organization. It has to be planned carefully so that it builds capability, not turns out we being dependent on few reliable resources who are known faces to the head office. And as mentioned, our strong work ethics, because being a Schengen organization, support trust, respect for personal time, and sustainable performance. So the whole concept here is to improve productive contribution, reduce the idle capacity, and protect employee well-being at the same time.
Thank you, Arti. So cross utilization would be my takeaway. And if I could now request Sudhir ji to share his point of view, please.
Thanks, Amit. Surely, because over 4 decades, I myself was a resource manager during the time. And also when I was ERP practice head, then also when I was in Mumbai, I had a pool of resources as a services company. So one thing we always maintain, the resource management is part of the business. Is the ownership of business, not HR. HR is enabler, very, very clearly. Second, we always used to maintain a resource release plan. And very safely, I can say, people have a tendency to keep looking for resources, but when it comes to release of resources, they will find 10,000 pretexts to hold back the resource close to the chest, as if, resource is not going to come ever again. And they also go through the same motion when they are short on supply. They maybe, speak of others, but when it comes to them, so a very strict discipline has to be there without impacting the business. And mostly your project people will tell you, oh, this is a project situation, billing is due, sign off is due. They will tell you 10,000 reasons why resource can't be released. So very, very clearly, that's a reason resource management is a part of business, because business is also accountable for their cost. And third very important factor, more so in modern days, that because today with the newer technologies, companies are continuously focused on adopting these new age technologies for their own business, or sometimes even external projects. So I think we must have these projects meaningfully well defined. So, and as per release plan, the resources should be aligned to be part of some of these projects. And that is where, hands-on learning will happen, not training. Because I don't know, we have so many HR people here. I have always said the scheduled 3, 5, 7, 10 days training programs are mostly paid holidays, because they are not mostly outcome driven. They are mostly input based. Send them training, tick in the box. But if we have few projects, and the good thing is that unlike the time when people like me started, we used to learn C, COBOL and all that. Today's tool sets, people can learn like this. They can be productive like this. Now, if you really meaningfully want to train your people, reorient your people, reskill your people, is the hands-on. In good old days, we used to call it on-the-job training. So that is the answer. So if we have some meaningful, outcome-focused, target-driven internal projects, and we bring these resources, and also if you know the release plan, it is maybe we can also give them, some kind of task that while you are on the release, brush up, dirty your hands on some of these tools and technologies, and then they are brought into a team. And obviously, we have to see the duration also. What is the duration of bench likely? Because normally, and that's where I'm saying business is responsible, not HR. Business will know if a particular profile, particular skill set is getting released across my projects, where and how, this resource may be deployed, may be required. And I'm repeating myself and I'm reiterating that we have to come out of the mindset of keeping close to chest. We have to learn to release resources timely without giving 10,000 reasons for holding back the resource. I think that is very, very crucial, because Now, what some of the companies, what they have done, they have changed the salary structure and they have linked your salaries to the billing rate. Now, is that really fair? I don't know. I'm not saying right or wrong, but I don't know, I'm saying. So, one is that companies have pushed their agenda onto the employee. That if you are not billable at a given point in time, or you are billable at a lower rate, your salary will reduce. I think we have to look beyond that. As an organization, responsible organization. That's where I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhirji.
Amit, I'm interjecting, sorry, because I felt a bit sparked by the point Sudhirji mentioned, and a couple of things just sparked my interest and want to come in shortly here. I fully agree with the point that he said about learning, but I personally feel that what he mentioned about business owning it and not HR, I would like to disagree. Specifically, I think HR should own it. That's when the game changes. I would not leave that on business and say that it's not an HR responsibility. So, while I agree with you most of your points, but this one I specifically disagree because I think that business, if we say that's when the demarcation starts, it's end of the day, people's responsibility is HR responsibility, and HR should own it and say that these are people and we need to replace them. While I completely agree with you that the speed of skilling and all of that has improved. And to your point about whether skilling, the compensation linkage to skilling and all of that, I think while there's no right or wrong, as you rightly said, and everything has its specific pros and cons and contextuality of it, but on this particular aspect, I think that it also has by design, it also puts a little bit of responsibility of the employee to focus on their own learning. Kind of, they equally are aware of things. How much, to what degree that you put on is something that is debatable and probably needs to be deliberated. But I think that shift of responsibility from the skill and learning, because at the end of the day, what value you bring as a individual consultant or a person or whatever you name it, is something that you should have equal ownership of it, and you should see the positive side of that growth also. So it should be rewarded consequence both ways, but that's what I feel. Thanks.
We can agree to disagree, Abhishek, on few points. And one of the things which I said, the resource management owned by business, I'm talking not today, even maybe 25, 30 years back, when I was, on the projects and delivery side. But we can hold this discussion we can park this discussion for now, agree to disagree and move forward. All yours.
Absolutely.
So I foresee good discussion after the meeting happening, after the session happening between the panelists. Great. So if I could now invite Sudipto to share his views, please.
I think it is interesting to see this healthy debate between Sudhir and Abhishek. And I think I'll just take on from there. I would say that why? I mean, let us understand what's the objective and what's the challenge. As to why are you debating between RMG and HR? And Amit, your question is very, pointed towards saying collaboration is the kind of a word that you have used, right? So, in my view, it is not an option of either or. It's both. Both are required. And if we are focused towards the objective and the challenges, then we'll realize that why both are required. So RMG is primarily the resource management group whose primary objective is optimization. I purely look at from the point of view of typical our supply chain management point of view, how do you optimize resource, keeping in mind the cost as one of the primary factors. And the moment you talk about the cost, then bench strength come into picture, because bench strength is basically a cost which is not getting utilized immediately, right? So that's the main objective that I look at it, RMG's point of view. But why at the same time HR is also required? Because HR's role is to ensure a little long-term strategic way of looking at people. That, okay, what about my the developing people for future, what's the new skill which is going to come in the future, how are you going to create the leadership pipeline from the same set of people. And if you don't do that, organization may be very optimized way of operate. They may operate efficiently and very productively at a short term, but are you really getting ready, prepared for future? That's the question I think one has to ask, and that's why I think role of HR comes into the picture. And typically, if you look at it, these roles are very well defined in my view, right? And there is no point stepping to each other's shoe. They need to just manage and collaborate among themselves. For example, the way I look at it is that RMG's role, because of its optimization, purely to get into more into the implementation, crux of the things, where the resource, how we can manage, purely from the supply chain point of view. On the other hand, HR will be looking little long-term, larger way of looking at it. So you need both. You need strategy, you need execution, and both are equal pillars, of an organization to take the organizations forward.
Very, very good point, Sudipto. If I could now invite Prem to share his point of view, please.
Yeah, thanks, Amit, and thanks, team. Interesting perspectives from different backgrounds of companies, people, and also personal experiences that we all carry, right? So interesting to note that. And like I think somebody said, nothing wrong or right. It depends on where you are, what you do. So I come from very similar to Arti's background, purely product company. Omnissa is an offshoot or spin-off from old VMware that was acquired by Broadcom. So it's a software company purely in the IT side of things. There is no ES there. So this is for people who are in the product side. I can probably you can relate more to me. So we don't have the concept of a bench. We don't have a concept of an RMG. So I will bring in another third dimension to this. One is, of course, the HR part, which is common. Then there is this, instead of RMG, I will call, I think Arti used the same word, the business folks. The engineering teams or whichever teams that you work with, they are very critical because they manage the resources for their teams, right? We don't have a separate wing for that. And the third element to us is the product or engineering leadership. They play a very key role. So the strategy part is where, so if I really look at you, I think you coined the term as collaboration between these teams to make this a success, right? So for me, these are the three, and HR plays a very strategic role, especially in my role or some of my peer in the organization is right at the workforce planning level. Since we don't have a bench, we need to ensure for the budgets for the entire year based on what the outlook of the products. So we build products, right? Not for others, but for ourselves, which we will sell to the market along with collaborative partners in the industry. So we have three. So the engineering leadership or product leadership teams actually defines the roadmap globally for that year. And then they decide based on where the market opportunities are in terms of what that product portfolios look like, if it is new additions or just features enhancement, etc. Based on that, we look at the talent requirement. So we look at internal talent, which is where HR comes into play, along with that strategic outlook towards workforce planning right in the beginning. Then we look at mobility if there are people. So when you open a new project, which is for a new product or enhancement, typically they say, 20, 30 recs we require. So the first thing for any business manager, the so-called RMG or the business groups is to go and open these recs. They never look at left, right to see, do we have these people in the company? Do we have people who are aspiring to move into these roles? Can we elevate them through some in-house training or external exposure, etc.? So that's where the collaboration needs to come. And that's where I think HR holds support to open the eyes for these teams, work with the leadership team. And I always tell my leaders too, when somebody in your team leaves, just don't go rush and get a backfill open. Can you look internally to see if there are people who are good, who wants to aspire to do these new roles, and you can help them to gain that expertise and awareness of the technology that is required. So to me, these are the three big groups that partner together. HR, of course, also looked at other things of manager capability. Are they capable of managing these people in order to drive the outcome that is required for the company? And then subsequently, of course, looking at the gap of the employees itself. So if I summarize this for these three groups, there's a strong requirement or responsibility that each one of them needs to play. But collaboration, Amit, has been a problem in our industry for a very long time. And I think it was called out as well, right? Even today, with all these things, people fail to collaborate because everybody thinks my talent is my team. What I do in my group is very close to me. Very seldom that you look at a collaborative approach of saying, okay, are you doing something there which I can copy? Instead of reinventing the entire wheel. So your reduction of cost for a product company is by reutilizing already existing processes, systems, and tools, not to reinvent, right? And of course, rotating the talent across these teams. And finally, I would also say that between these teams, if you really look at, stop pushing your top talent to do all the jobs every time. And then the burnout, you asked about a question on burnout, right? So we tend to go to the same set of people all the time. We send to form a core team that is sent for multiple projects, which is actually not the right thing to do. So give breaks for people in between projects or modules or client changes, which means they recoup, they have time to recover, learn something new and come back and contribute. And at the same time, give them opportunity in terms of visibility within the organization and also externally. Whether it is different forums, they can go and represent the company and the cool work and technology thing that you are delivering to your customers will give them all that enhancement, because empowerment is such a key thing for people today. And we'll, I think, talk about some of the talent related things. But in terms of reducing cost, don't open recs immediately. Think about people internally, collaborate with your different functions. Look at, do you need the same level of talent, or can you push people internally and hire people at the lower levels? There's so many things that we can do to reduce cost and also enhance empowerment and ensuring they retain the company because of growth. Because everybody looks at what is in it for me? How much can I grow in the company? So these are some of the things that I would put forward from a product company point of view.
Great points, Prem, and empowerment is very powerful. And to all the HR people present here, in case you are looking to enhance collaboration between your different teams, you can utilize Kushalta's brain rewiring technique to help people start collaborating more. But that's okay. So if I could now request Yash to share his views on this piece.
Thanks, Amit. I would probably go with a little more, what I feel, not as, which normally works. I really want to be honest to other peers and to you. The cost and the bench is something what we have seen a lot, during the COVID and before the COVID and around that time. But I think having the bench resources in any organization right now, although we talk about it, but that could be a big challenge for a lot of stakeholders. So in my view, that depends on, the collaboration between the business and the HR, who can help to understand, the workforce availability, attrition trends, and the hiring capacity. So if these are something, which could be analyzed between a great collaborative way between the stakeholders and the HR resource management team, really going to help everyone. Right now, what happens is, I think in most of the cases, people are not able to bear the bench resources, but at the same time, the business and the projects require the immediate hiring, right? And I think this collaboration will going to help, to reduce the cost and to increase the efficiency on the projects. So, as you know that I belong from a different industry, not just with IT. I work with aerospace, defense. I work for telecom. I work for IT, for the group technologies. If I majorly talk about my experience working with the technology services, I think we could bear to have the people on bench, but at the same time, the projects have different requirements. So might be you have someone on the bench for the next skill sets, and the projects require something else. And how are you going to sustain that bench resources for a long time? By the end of the day, you need to take the decision on that. So I think upskilling and reskilling and also working in a collaborative way with the business, with the HR and the resource management team to see the hiring capacity, to see the attrition trend, and whether people are getting upskilled and reskilled based on the project's requirement. Because what we expect from the business to help us understand the trends and the forecasting of the project, the kind of technology they're expecting, the kind of project they are looking at, and we have the resources available in the house. If not, then there could be a way of upskilling, reskilling, and collaborating in a way that it would not increase the cost. Because I think in a very practical way that there are a lot of people talks about having the people on bench. I think in my opinion, I am talking to a lot of people on daily basis. I think people don't have that bench of people which used to have it like 2 years, 3 years back. So that's my point. I think working in a collaborative way and to understand and to have a better forecasting and also understanding the attrition rate and attrition trends going to help us, working in more efficient way. So that's my point. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, Sudhir.
So I see when we talk of bench, let's also introduce, because we are services company, let's say, especially global. How do we deal with our, exits from the projects, abrupt exit from the projects? I have seen, I will not name a company, and there are many, many situations like this, that a packet of 8,000 people is sent back from US. I call them packet because of some client side disruptions. Within 90 days, we have seen major layoffs because organization, I don't know how organizations are well prepared to take care of these abrupt situations, which are very natural, which still happens. So I think that is one point I want to leave to the table, that one is scheduled, known, release plan and all that. But when disruptions happen, even in a product company, for some reason, if there is a disruption and we have to, the first thing is the hit is on the people. Softest target. So I would really like to learn, because if you allow me 1 minute, I will say I have come across some Indian MNC who went to a government customer. Sir, I'm here to give you 8,000 people. Now in government, it takes time to, even if and here the customer was absolutely genuine, wanted to onboard these people for their requirement because they were getting international resources. Now it took time, and in the meantime, in the third month, we learned that company laid off 8,000 people. Now, this is also part of resourcing.
Maybe if I just want to briefly address that, Sudhirji, I mean, I think it basically 3 factors. One is that your business merging, that's one important point. Number 2 is what's your business philosophy. And the third is the opportunity cost of losing those people, right? So for example, in a product company, I worked in Oracle before. So in a product company, when you develop and prepare people for, and they become very valuable. So if you want to lose them for a short few months and then acquiring them back and then training them, that cost is also extremely higher. So if you have to keep that in mind, and then you have to decide. But let's say in a small margin, low skilled kind of a organization, there I think it really doesn't matter much, and that's why this problem happens, right? So there is no straight answer to that. I think, as I say, that there are these 3 points you have to keep in mind.
And Sudipto, just to add and to reiterate, why resourcing should be part of business ownership. HR role can't be taken away. HR can't shy away. See, it is the business who will know the value of these people. 1. 2, the cost of losing these people in case we decide to lose. And 3rd, if we have to redeploy, we have to reutilize these people, it is only business who can do. HR cannot do this part. Hence, I say HR should continue to be enabler, but it should be business owned. Just to reiterate from the point you mentioned. Thank you.
we'll have discussion on this after the session. All right. So one question, the first question that we can take is before we move on to the next round is how to improve productivity in this fast changing, noisy world. So any panelists who would like to take this?
See, if we are talking of productivity, let's be clear. If overnight we talk of this productivity word, the answer is no. But if we are doing things by design, there is and I'm not talking theory, I'm talking some of these things which we have done. If we have been investing into our people, not alone training, but in mentorship, in grooming, in taking them through situations, investing in them, then I think this is relatively answered in a better way. But if we are not doing by design, and again, coming point, it's a business who can define, execute, measure, redefine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amit, I'll
Yeah.
add a dimension to this productivity aspect, and with some of my experience from I work at typical tech companies and typical services organization, and I'll borrow from that experience. It depends on how we define productivity. Sometimes from business metrics, we look at what is the billing rate versus in a typical IT services company. What is the billing rate versus the cost of things? And when you look at, I bring in another dimension of that is, are we able to put across the right red card for the person who's bringing in the skill set and the set of kind of their competency and all of that, because more often than not, due to lack of data, and nowadays with AI, that the data is available uh, and then getting more visible and transparent. But as you mentioned about a decade back or maybe 2 decades back, those data were not available, and therefore it became a standard vanilla rate card for certain layers of architect, engineer, or whatever. Now, within that, can we add more dimensions of what their competency, what their demand or things is, and then be able to command a better red card that automatically, without having to do much, you can use the data to improve the productivity, which is kind of getting there today. But I think there's still room for it to go, and that can, I mean, without having to do much, while whatever mentioned about all the aspects of planning productivity throughout the life cycle rather than a point in time approach, of course, makes sense, and we should do that. But if we can just flip this or do this additional thing, I think that improves without having to do much, and that is something that I would allude to.
I think Tarun has got two very good perspectives to his question. Let's move on to the next round before we take more questions. So, see, now AI develop most of the 90% of the development teams are using AI in their day-to-day work. So now the challenge for HR or the bottleneck for HR currently is how to move from certification courses or certifying the teams to execution capability. So the specific point which I want to mention is how are you fixing the gap between certified skills and actual project ready competence to accelerate the transition from legacy tech to emerging AI tech projects? And if I could start with Sudhir ji.
Sure, Amit. So, if you really ask me honestly, certification by design, by definition, it is my understanding, and I'm not generalizing it. I think is one, to enhance your resume, and second, to sometimes comply with the requirement of the client procurement. I have seen people who are certified, and when it comes to dirtying your hands with a real situation, they fall short. That is one aspect. Second, I think, sir, I'm never saying no to certification. They must keep happening. But every time, and that is my favorite, friends, from how do we move from input based to outcome focused? Well, my people are quite maybe sick also of keep listening to this word from me. See, certification is done mostly in an input manner. Certification. Before we get into that, do we really set the expectations or the aspirations or the post-certification mechanism, methods, that how business is going to leverage it beyond tick in the tender situation or in a procurement situation, beyond the individual, adding to one's own credentials. So my limited point is, how do we meaningfully do that? One. Second, in today's time, I may be grossly wrong. I think today's tool sets are available where even for the most complex situations, you get these tool sets to get your answers. And it doesn't mean no to certification, never. But we should also see how people practically are leveraging these modern days tools and technology to support the business. And very last point briefly, I think it is the ownership of every individual to keep oneself upgraded, including certification. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir. So business outcome-based training, that is the takeaway. Sudipto, if I could request you to share your views.
I'll just give you an example. Just few days ago, a team member of mine, my colleague, came and said, "Sir, I have done the MBA. Now, he's having about 15 years of experience. I have done my MBA. I knew that he was doing it. Now, because of that, I should be promoted." So I think that's the wrong perception I think many are carrying. And when I go to premium MBA colleges, including IIMs, and also recruit, I often hear, barring maybe some top IIMs, that we are more about practical. We talk about what is the experience, right? So theories, they say there is no point studying theories. So I said, then why did you waste your 2 years? You could have straight away joined the job, no? So so people think that by experience that they have gained the entire thing, which is actually wrong. And there is a good correlation between certification or education versus what's the output that you give. So coming back to that, my colleague team member, I said that, see, the main purpose of your doing MBA is that now you know things better. That has to get translated into work output. Once that work output happens, then only your promotion, your increment, whatever will happen. So I don't see, it's not mutually exclusive. So certification at one point of time was the only way to check by the clients that, okay, somebody has done that. The way organization said, if I am recruiting a fresher, he should be an engineer or he should be the MBA, like that. But eventually, if you don't perform, you are out. So basically, how the certified skills are seen in the right perspective, how do I apply those knowledge and skills, that determines the output. And that's why the whole, the best results will happen. So there is, again, there is no question of that either or. It has to be a combination of both, and people have to be very conscious about what am I learning. And I go back to Sudhirji's point. Sudhirji thinks that, okay, you're sending people for 5 days and it's a picnic. So that depends upon exactly the organization's, philosophy also. If HR thinks it's a tick box, then the employees also think it's a tick box, I have attended that. But then it has to be very outcome focused, that what have you learned? How are you utilizing in the job? So I always do that. Whenever a training program happens, people come back and purely the hard questions are asked. What have you learned? How are you using it? What are the projects you are taking up, and how it is going to help the organization? So on that matter, again, I like to tell Sudhirji that, see, there is no fight or demarcation between HR or business and thing in Abla. All are together. HR is business. Please understand that as well. So otherwise, you will have this problem that, one way you are saying that people are very keeping it close to their heart. They are not releasing. That's not, even if you're in the business, that you are not serving the purpose of the business. So what's the point talking that business has to be there if people are not understanding? So that is required that you have to have a larger organizational understanding. Everybody should be focused towards the larger output of the organization, and HR and supply chain or marketing, everybody plays an equal role. So they are all part of the business. So there is no question of who is in business, who is not. It's about the mindset. You can be in the business, but you're still not focused. Your mindset is not focused towards the larger purpose of the business. So that's how it has to work.
Sudipto, I can't agree more with you with your interventions. My limited point is that the world is not black or white. First, very clearly, world is gray. So we have all kind of situations. Maybe with my background, most time I have seen when HR carrying a mindset of a cost center, and that is where how comfortably they play active role play, like nomination. Honestly, I'll share with you, Sudipto, unless some training programs are opted by business, anything enabled by learning and development and all that, you have to beg for resources, and a lot of time you get people by availability, less by suitability. And again, no generalization, but by far or largely.
No, I agree. So what I'm saying is that we should not take our experiences of where the problem is. We have to look at what is the right thing to happen. How do you do that? And that's how we need to operate on that.
I think one more point, we can have this discussion after the meeting between the panelists. Very interesting point. I would like to learn, because as a training company, we also need to pitch into the both business and HR. Okay, now if I could invite Arti to share her point of view on how to make teams AI ready for project execution.
Yeah, in our case, as mentioned earlier, marine organization and product-based company, certification is just the beginning point. In our situation, software engineer doesn't only need to know how to code, develop the practical skills, but something's more also. Being a product-based company, if he is going to work on a navigation system, for example, he should know that where that navigation system is going to be used, how critical it is, what accuracy and all that practical knowledge also is part of it. And since our teams are collaborating with the HQ, the important competence for us, apart from the skills, is also this cultural thing, because we have faced in past the cultural challenges working with the European nationals, where we have tendency to say yes to everything, and that creates some kind of confusion and conflicts which we need to resolve. So this gap we are resolving. Firstly, the gap between, to ensure a smooth communication by having this cultural training, assuring that the people are aligned to the requirements, and they are, fully capable to firstly take on the projects and deliver. And we have to be realistic as well. Marine as such is a very conservative when it comes to implementing AI. We are, due to the nature of the work, nothing else. And not every learning is going to be translated into AI project. But people need to, as somebody mentioned, need to continuously upskill themselves. That is, individual responsibility as well, to ensure that you are updated and, relevant in the industry. So that's my that are my points towards this.
Very relevant points, Arti. Thank you. If I will now invite Prem to share his point of view.
Yes. So this is a very interesting phase I think the industry is going through, because if I reflect back to a year or before, most companies just decided to jump into AI without even analyzing what is AI and how it is going to be implied, what is the consequence of introducing AI. It was fashionable, trendy, and if you don't put AI in your deliverables or your brochure, nobody's going to look at you, or even your CV, right? So I think we are past that stage. And what I've seen of late is many companies are also pulling back their investments in AI, hoping and feeling that it's not going to replace human beings entirely. So yes, there are places where I think, and what industry experts are saying, they will substitute because it's faster, easier, and can be repetitive and things like that. But many companies recently, I read, they're pulling back the investment of agents and not giving it to everybody in the company. While the initial, I think, thought was that everybody should know AI, where to use it, because then you can be more productive. People said, I want to be in that top 40, 50% of profiles. If there is a reduction, I want to be in that 40, 50 will be retained back. But I think all those things, the maturity evolution is bringing back a lot of learnings for companies. So today, if I look at my own company, we are not saying everybody in the company go and learn AI. And certificate is not the key factor for us. So we identify areas where AI needs to be introduced. Okay, so starting point is that. And for those areas, under different product platforms or features or whatever services that we offer, we are then looking at which area and who are the people who need to be trained. So they get trained. So what is the first thing is creating an AI learning platform for those people to come in. Second is, can we then have a AI learning project platform where you learn something, you may not apply it straight away into your output, but you have an opportunity to develop some interim product or a project where you exercise your knowledge and experiment what is the outcome. And typically some good companies are also introducing like a 90-day plan. Can I introduce this, put some people who have learned and see how it goes, first 45 days, 90 days. Is it working well? If not, you quickly pull back because the cost of investment is too high. And recently, many companies have pulled back the investments and agents provided access to all the employees saying that the cost of AI is more than the cost of the people we had. So the premise in which they started is just not holding true anymore. So I think companies will soon pick up areas where you need to invest AI, who are the people who need to learn and support them. And the rest will take a period of time. But if you want to be personally engaged in developing yourself, no harm in going for your certification, have a development plan, discuss with your manager. If company sponsors it, well and good. Otherwise, I would urge everyone here to go and learn on your own because it's a future. Don't wait for the company to put investment on you. Because many places, sometimes even in my job, I'm still doing many things of my old way. I don't need AI. But in HR operations, in talent acquisition, in performance management, we have introduced AI. So there are still areas where we still need to be human. We will continue to work that way. So I think it's a great balance. It's a maturity of the organization and the product portfolio that you are into, where you will deploy and unleash the talent that is required to deliver on AI and everything. So we need to move from a certificate measurement portfolio to an outcome-based measurement. And that's how I think we need to go. I honestly don't care how many certificates people have. As long as they are complying to our compliance and policies, they know how to use the agents, they can contribute and make it easy and productive for the company. That's the outcome I'm looking for.
Great perspective. Prem, if I could now invite Yash to share his point of view, please.
Thanks, Amit. I think your question says moving from a transition legacy tech to emerging AI tech projects. And that means that creating that opportunity within the organization, first of all, to see whether the skills required in terms. So, Prem has made some really great points. Do we have that, that the skills requirement within the house so that we'll get our people ready? And now when it comes to filling the gaps between the certified skills and, the project ready people who can work on the AI projects, like I said, that we need to create that opportunity first. And if there is an opportunity, then we need to find out the way to get the, things done on time through, from a legacy ways of doing it and through a new way of doing the stuff. So I think in most of the cases, if we see that, doing the certifications, I think people does it in organization. Every organization has some mandate trainings, mandate certifications, and some are like, very open certification, which, anybody and anyone can do it. But there are some certifications which are customer mandate, right? especially if you talk about few of the industries like aerospace, and even on the tech side also there are some projects which requires a mandated training certification to work on the project. Now AI being into introduced in so many factors, in so many companies, in so many ways, those mandate trainings have started in the AI sector as well. Now people have to do those trainings in order to be on that project, but there are something which we probably forecasting that this might we get in the future. How are we going to fix that if you want to deliver it on time? Now I think in my view it's not just like on project or forecasting basis. I think it would be probably go as an objective through a business to their teams. It would get it routed from a pyramid to the ground, that this is exactly what we all supposed to do, whether we are going into that direction or not, whether we are getting projects or not. But that creates an great environment within the projects, within the team, that would create the future ready material in any organization. So in my thought, it would not be as like it's the saying that we fill the gaps, we get the project, we work on that. No, it's not like that. There are some mandate certification which everyone has to do it in the current organization. I mean, it is happening also. You see it in a longer term, you see it like making it as an objective right from the top of the pyramid to the grounds, like I said. So yeah, I mean, that's what I can say on this.
Right. Sometimes they are mandatory. Very well said, Yash. If I could now ask Abhishek to share his point of view, please.
Amit, thanks. I'll pick on what Prem was mentioning earlier. And within the AI spectrum, from a purely services organization perspective, there are three segments. I would classify people in three category of segments. One is AI assisted, one is AI augmented, and the third would be AI native. And the way I look at it is AI assisted is probably every one of us using certain AI tools to do our job better, faster, in whatever format. AI augmented is more from a project delivery standpoint, where certain activities of the project work is done using AI consistently. That's part of the mandate. And AI native are people who are actively developing on AI. And I think the AI native is going to be limited, and there will be a handful of people who will move on to that sector. But there is a huge upskilling opportunity from AI assisted to AI augmented piece, and that's where the value from us for a service sector will improve. That the more AI augmented people that you have in the house who can simultaneously use. But to Prem's point earlier, I completely got that certification may not be the lookout, and today there are too many random AI certifications or things and not authorized or things, and not that I would say that the theoretical learning adds a value. It does, but then how you implement it in work and how you do that matters more. But again, what Sudhir mentioned earlier about compliance, for service sector, certain categories of certifications fall under the compliance bracket, and certain requirements from the client aspect, and therefore are mandatory. Having said that, there is a lot more focus on people who can deliver the outcomes and things, and that gets tested when they're deployed in the project, and automatically their build rate, their ask from the client, their demand goes higher up, and therefore, as a services company, which it generates more revenue. So it has an automatic linkage, and therefore, I think HR can play a great role in structuring incentives towards that, designing compensation rewards around it, which helps enable the organization to move faster in that direction, increasing adoption of it, whilst so that we are, I mean, there is certain degree of reversal of trend that's also happening, as there are certain organizations, Prem mentioned, and we all know it's a public news. Certain organizations pulled back from AI investments because it got oversubscribed. So all of that, we see different spectrums, and that's going to continue. It's an evolving phenomenon, and we don't know where it lands up and how things. But I would say that being AI assisted is going to be hygiene. Like there was a decade, not the last decade, but probably 3 decades back, people used to put in their CVs, and some of you would recollect Even the Microsoft skills were part of the CV points and all. And I think that has now just gone off. I mean, nobody knows that about this bit, but there were probably 30 years back, there were people who write in their CVs knowledge about Microsoft Office skills. I think the world is moving towards a direction where AI fluency will become a hygiene factor, and that will go as a base expectation in CVs in the future. And that's how I see the world moving, and therefore the certification is playing a catch up, and that will become a hygiene factor at certain point. That's how I look at it.
Very well said. So I remember putting MS Word in my CV, in my first CV. That I know MS Word. So yeah, so good point. So segregating skills into AI assisted, AI augmented, etc. is a good point. So before we move on to point 3, which is going to be on the discussion, point 3, phase 3 on delivery excellence in hybrid model. If I could request everybody, all the participants, to please switch on your camera for the screenshot, for the records. Just for a few seconds, if you could switch on your camera so that I can take a screenshot for the records. Request everybody. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. A few more, please. Thank you. Thank you. If we could have few more. Yes. All right. So thank you. So before moving on to point 3, a few words just to tick a box, like we are ticking so many boxes. So I have to say a few words about Kushalta. I'll be very, very short, only 1 or 2 sentences. So we use brain rewiring techniques to improve performance and productivity of leaders and team members, including CXO level to entry level. And these brain rewiring techniques make all the training interventions ROI based. So we use metrics to measure the performance and the behavior of teams and leaders before the intervention, and then 3 months later. And leaders we train on delivering a 20-day coaching program to their team members. So every leader becomes a trainer himself or herself. That is what this 3-month training is all about. So it starts with a 2-day physical training followed by 1-to-1 coaching sessions of each individual. So that was about us. Thanks for patiently listening to me. So now we move on to the round 3. And how do we foster a culture of delivery excellence in a hybrid work model while successfully retaining top 5% premium talent? So how is the eminent HR panel, how are they working on this hybrid model, whereas ensuring that the premium top 5% talent is retained? So if we could start with Yash.
Thanks, Amit. So for me, I think the talent excellence or the talent delivery excellence and the talent retention are 2 separate goals. I think they are deeply connected, but most of the cases, the high performance team you see in the hybrid mode, I think we never had this experience before the COVID, right? And later we started learning about the different ways of dealing with the hybrid workforce. And I think I'm not going to talk about the team onto the operations or the team into the deliveries. I myself talk about me and my team I have worked with during those times. And especially in IT, when I remember that there were instances where we had a lot of challenges working on some of the technologies and get to have people on board. The compensation rises, and there is a high pressure from the delivery. Projects are coming in, and then we were not able to deliver. I think there were a lot of challenges happening. What helped me to work along with my team during that practice, what I also experienced it for the first time, is to provide that engagement, is to provide that accountability. I think it is very important for us also to understand, while person working in a hybrid or maybe working from home, it is very difficult for us to to see the person out during the working hours, being engaged, doing something else, being a traditional mindset. Being an Indian, I think we also think in a way that the person should be in the office or be on a work all the time during the working hours. I think for me it is important to give that accountability, that engagement. I think, and to retain the top talent, I think compensation is important, but at the same time, I think people also see, if they're getting a chance to grow professionally in the organization, are they being engaged properly? Are they being treated and valued properly? So I think these are some of the major parameters, and these are generic parameters, and I know that everybody knows this, but following those, those rules is also important at the same time. Being a human, we don't adapt. We say it sometime, but we keep on forgetting that. So I think following that values, that rules, I think it can help us, retaining the top talent and to create that culture during the hybrid or work from home, capacity. Thank you.
Great parameters, Yash. If I could now request Prem to share his point of view, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, again. Yeah, so in line with Yash, I think to me, this delivery of excellence is not done by the 5% at a company level. Okay, so it's a larger organization. You have out of 100 people, 5 people cannot make it great. But yes, of course, because of our structure system, there is a bell curve and all those things. There are always 5, but there are genuinely top talent who bring that innate ability to do things differently, be proactive, drive change, mindset, looking at how do you do the transformation. To me, those are all big words for treating somebody who takes team along with you, irrespective of leadership level, right? They are your top talent people and who can contribute, committed, dedicated, etc. And I think Yash talked about compensation. To me, compensation is the last element people look at for changing in a large setup or to a large extent, because the trigger is something else all the time. And eventually, when somebody shifts from company A to B, there is always a salary increase. And then what happens is we always say, oh, he got a 20% increase or she got a 30% increase. But that's just the outcome. The trigger is something else. So as an organization, as a leader, we've got to start looking at how do we create that environment for them not to look for those changes, right? So one thing that we are doing today at Omnissa is something as stay discussions. So as we all know, when anybody puts in the paper, it's difficult to hold them back. Very seldom, unless you pay the money, right? Equal to or more. So we decided to talk to a set of top talent or high potentials to see how they are feeling, what are they going through, why are they top, what are they doing differently that we can learn from. And if there are challenges that they're facing, can we collate it, aggregate it at the company level, and then take a decision to see, can we get rid of those challenges? So that's, to me, it seems to be a very good approach and process. And this hybrid thing is something every company is dealing with right now after COVID. Many people don't want to come back. Companies are pushing people. It's impacting the travel time, traffic, so many factors. And on top of all this, from India, we have 9 calls with the US. So it's a catch-22 situation. Many have moved into 2 days a week, 3 days a week. But more than that, I think the culture forms the most important. So I had categorized in my mind a couple of things that you can do remotely and what you should do in person. So even if you are hybrid, there are 2 days, even if you come to office, look at areas where you can actually have customer impact. You can have, let's say workshops, product showcases to customers and partners or other organizations. Those are things you can definitely do.
You've gone mute, Prem.
Sorry. So those are things that you can do in terms of driving visibility, conversations, customer interactions, all in the office. If you want to do research, engineering, coding, back-end stuff, I think remote is okay. So depending on the functionality, depending on what the individual want, we can actually have the teams decide who will come when. Because the hybrid model is very important for the sustenance of the team, the culture, the empowerment, and ability to be productive that we spoke about, right? Because end of the day is engagement. Employee engagement and trust are 2 important things. Do we trust our employees when they are remote? And do we have proof for that they are contributing the best they can? And that's why many companies are asking you to come back. So anyway, these are all larger topics to discuss. So to back to your question about productivity in terms of hybrid, this is where I would look at. And to me, the top 5 that I talked about, I just wrote people in decision making. Okay, especially key decision making, ensure that they are part of those discussions. Provide them with exec access. They should be visible to the top talent. Top execs of the company. Of course, I talked about internal and external visibility. For example, can you talk about your cool technology in a forum externally? Can you send these people out? And not to worry about them being exposed, but they should be talking about your cool technology. Invest in their growth and career, retention will automatically happen. You don't need to worry about retention, right? Recognize and reward some people as and when it is genuine. And most importantly, equip your managers and leaders to handle hybrid teams in order to provide them the environment to be successful. And last but not the least, some companies have also gone to the extent of a top talent program. And that could be cash component, especially with some additional RSUs offered, or faster career track, or put them in special projects that may be critical to the company. So those are different ways. But I want to keep everybody in mind that each and everyone is important in the company, not just top talent. So we got to do this a bit subtly, but wherever it's due, showcase the talent, the visibility, and the recognition. But otherwise, everybody plays a critical role. And people who don't fit into the system need to be, weeded out over a period of time, because they actually screw up the entire average of the productivity of a particular team or the company. So I would urge people to have a balanced view, not just look at the bottom 5 or the top 5. Look at the whole holistically as an organization.
Great points, Prem. And in fact, my takeaway would be equipping managers, because it's related to training, which we do. Anyway, so if I could request Sudipto to share his point of view, please.
I think I'll just take on from where Prem just mentioned that at the end of the day, it is engagement, right? So I think that's an important part. And if I can go back to one of the classical models of engagement, it talks about the say, stay, and serve. So that means you have to serve. You have to also say good things about the organization. And at the same time, you have to stay. So just to reiterate what Prem said, that if you are engaged, then you will also stay. That will help in terms of your retention. Not necessarily just the top talent, but in general. Now, coming back to, I think, this point that you have mentioned, Amit, is that culture of delivery excellence, right? So I would say that you have to just differentiate that if excellence happens in the organization, then automatically these people will be engaged more, and that will in turn help in terms of the retention. And I'll just give you one example, that while I talked about the classical model of engagement, but what we did slightly differently was we were saying that typically if you look at the psychology of individual, every day people come to work for what? Basically to learn and deliver, to contribute. And if the contribution happens, automatically their career growth, their salary increase, their promotion, everything will take place. I think that is the greatest challenge that we are having today in terms of those who are high aspiration, highly capable people. How do you get them engaged to a proper work so that they can contribute and reward them accordingly? So in that model, what we did, we said that 80% of engagement happens through contribution. And then that means that people have to be equipped to have the right skill and competencies. And that's why, I think your question can also come in that how do you enable people with the right skill and competencies? And the second point that you say that once you have the right skill and competencies, then how do you get the opportunity or empowerment to apply it on the job? So there are many organizations, they might have politics or something that even if you are well equipped, well capable, but you are not able to apply it, or the job may not even available there. So people will not stay, they will go away. So if these two happens, 80% of your engagement problem is taken care of. Rest 20% is, I don't call it engagement, it's more about experience, right? Whether you have a right infrastructure, whether you have very nice programs. Typically people talk about whether you have a spa in the organization, just to exaggerate it further. That's about 20%. But primary happens through your skill, competency, and ability to apply that in the organizations, and accordingly how do you get rewarded. So now, if the organization can create that culture of excellence, automatically it will help in terms of your retention. So that doesn't happen by saying that today I'll create the excellence. It has to be a leadership intent. It has to be rightly integrated with the right processes, with the performance management processes, whether how people behave, how do you have a long-term view about delivering output and developing people. These are all integrated effort to ensure that excellence happens. And here I'd like to differentiate a little bit. When you say delivery excellence, somehow my mind goes more in terms of the ITeS service organization, because the delivery is important from the client. But if I look at the product side of the organization, then not necessarily delivery to the client, but delivery of the output of the project itself, right? So how do you design on time? How do you ensure that excellence is happen? So then the question is, how do you define excellence? I have defined, one of my, while revamping the performance management system in all the organizations, I said that excellence is something where you are creating something new, which has not been done by the people before, and which is going to immensely help the organizations in terms of creating a competitive edge. And second point is that competitive creation has to sustain whether you are there or not. That creates the excellence in terms of how to deliver. It could be delivery to the client, or it could be the delivery output of a project or of your any creation, designing of anything. So that kind of a sense of excellence has to be there, starting from the top, from the leadership, and automatically that will percolate down through processes and through the leadership culture to the bottom down. And if that happens, automatically your top talent you'll be able to retain, and others as well. That's not a problem. And in that sense, that whether hybrid model is, I would say, just an enabler. So as I think Yash talked about, that after COVID, we have seen that hybrid model is actually helped, right? So whether hybrid, it's not a contradiction that hybrid models is going to work against the excellence. If you're very clear about leadership intent of excellence, then whether it's a hybrid model or not, it doesn't matter. Only one thing you need to keep in mind when you talk about a hybrid model, or even otherwise, which is also a part of excellence, is a model of ROWE, result on the work environment. Many organizations, they have actually given complete freedom when they have been able to somehow, it's very difficult to adopt, but to a certain extent adopt the result of the work environment. That also helps in terms of the creating the excellence in the workplace.
Great points, Sudipto, especially the culture, so very powerful. If I could now request Sudhir ji to share his point of view, please.
Thanks, Amit. After 4 decades, when by being on the business side, when I became CHRO, so I'll tell you something. What we are practicing and we have started doing in our company. We are a 1,000 people company, and pan-India presence, people on projects and all that. So one thing on that 5%, what you mentioned now, as Prem rightly said, 5% could be anything. But one thing I have started personally doing, identifying those people whom we find as high potential candidates and or long timer with the company. So started one-on-one conversation with these people, and not one-off. One conversation leading to another conversation, leading to another conversation. Just to engage with them, what they are doing, what they are aspiring to do, what they want to do, what they don't want to do, and help them shaping in new roles also. Like in a couple of cases, we have also offered some new roles, enhanced roles to people. So that is one thing, from the, see, normally what happens when people quit, they come back to you, say, we will give you promotion, we'll give you this role, we'll give you the salary, blah, 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 blah. What if you are engaging with them, and people should see this as a program within the company, that it is not one of you or only have been spoken to. It is many people are being spoken to. So that is one thing, engaging with high potential and the people whom really company want to retain. So that is one thing we are already doing. Second, we have already collated, where we are saying we will create a platform where internal people will share their experiences with the entire organization. So they will say, like, I know something about AI and agentic AI. I know something about how to deal with a problem situation in a project. So they will define their own, what they are good at and what they have experienced, put them in less than a page. And now we are starting a new series shortly, when this will go to everyone. Third, we have started a series called In Conversation With. Now here we have started with the leadership, but down the line, my plan, which is under execution already, is, let's say, pick up 3 project managers, bring them on up, for 1 hour conversation, 45-minute conversation, and let them share. So these are doing minimum 2 things to me. One, we are learning from each other. And second, I think we are creating a platform for people to be showcased, company-wide, which otherwise, maybe they are confined to their specific projects only. And another thing, I'm talking all that it is already in motion. Let's say we pick up a project team and we say we want to have 1 hour session with all of you, let's say by CHRO. Now, imagine people who are at the remotest possible sites. They haven't seen anybody from headquarters except 1 or 2 managers visiting them, and they also, I don't know whether they are meeting them or not all the time. Now here, if they get to meet at least, leadership, now we are creating a sense of belongingness among people who are working. And this come to me from the time when I was heading SAP practice in HCL, when we had people working in Silvassa, Tuticorin and all that. So how, we used to engage with them. So to make them part of, and also offer them growth opportunities. Which we are already doing. In the process, we have started identifying that how some of the people, we should start looking at them and start talking to them, that if they should be given enhanced roles. So I think these are few things we are doing to avoid a situation when somebody comes with a resignation letter and you get into a situation of blackmail because project is in crucial situation, because the resource is rich. Instead of that, if we do these small things which can be sustained. To me, I think these things do help.
Very rightly said, Sudhir. Conversations are very powerful. If I could now request Arti to share her point of view, please.
Yeah, so for us, I think the ownership is very important because the work itself is the main motivation for people to wake up every day and come and deliver. So I think the focus should be on that, and that solves half of the issues. So and this applies to everyone. And if we have a model in our organization where each of the person is clear about how he is contributing to overall project goals, so that sense of ownership is built over time. And when the person sees, the navigation system, for instance, I gave an example, been delivering and the ship sailing, he connects to that, and that, brings a lot of pride and ownership within the team. And of course, retention part, you should be able to have this. Somebody mentioned about communication. That is very important aspect. You need to communicate with your talent. Earlier in our organization, we had this talent program, but we had to scrape it off because then the question was, if somebody is talent, what about the other people? what category do they fit in. So that categorization was completely stopped, and we, gave everybody level playing field. Because more or less the mentality still is that, my manager will come in, will give me opportunities. He is responsible for my career. I just sit and wait for opportunities to come. And this mindset has to change. It has to be a growth mindset, and that should be sort of communicated. Leaders play a huge role in this, ensuring that each person has a development plan in place. That's also very important. So you actually are able to see that from this point of time, how your career is going to unfold, and detect the problems very rapidly. Somebody also mentioned, person coming in with a degree and expecting a promotion. That should not be the case. Your output, or what contribute, or what value you add to the organization and the project as a whole, that should be, counted as your contribution or value. So that would be something from my side.
Very nice, Arti. Sense of ownership, inculcating that is very powerful. So we started with Abhishek, the 3 rounds, the first round. And now if I could close the final third round with Abhishek again, before we move on to the question and answer. So Abhishek, request for your views, please.
Thank you, Amit. I think most of the points have my fellow panelists have already covered. I'll add one aspect and then summarize quickly of what everybody's covered, and some of the points that I also noted down, I think resonated with me. While we talked about, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sudipto, Sudhir talked about purpose or meaning, and I think that that's very relevant. Purpose or meaning for an employee, and I think Arti also touched upon it. For an employee to do their job and stay connected to the organization is very critical. And how do you, as an HR, we own the responsibility of communicating that purpose to every employee so that they understand what they are like contributing, if not to the larger goal of the organization, but to the purpose of the team or the department or henceforth. Second aspect is of trust, having adequate trust on the employee to be more self-oriented, and that gets reciprocated in the contributions that they make. Third is stay conversations. I think Prem started about that. Talked about it. It's very, very important in today's world that we start talking about stay conversations, which results in early detection or early interventions rather than reactive steps. I would add to all of this with two things, saying that fortunately we have a lot of data and intelligence available to us as HR leaders with the usage of AI and every other tool. And what I look at and our mission and try to do is, our endeavor is to look at hyper personalization, and with every talent being looked at, or an endeavor to look at what is my needs. And if you look at all the customer facing brands today, look at hyper personalization. What you get as a recommendation, as a feature, as a thing on your B2C brands, on your apps, are very personalized. So how can we make, as an HR, the needs of our employees personalized and deliver a hyper personalized plan for their journey or the experience that they get from the organization, be it in terms of compensation, be it in terms of learning, be it in terms of performance, be it in terms of other things. So that becomes my own, as an employee, that becomes my own realm of things or experience, what I get from the organization. And the more it is personalized, I feel valued, and all kind of fuels the rest of the things that we spoke of. That's what I would look at to kind of combine all the points that everyone else talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. So very wonderful discussion, and we have a couple of minutes. So if I could, one question was by Sudhirji on mid management. So what are panelists' views on equipping mid management to handle the changing scenarios? So anyone who would like to address this?
And also, Amit, before anybody responds, also to add, what is your experience of middle management actually playing the, Sehwag or Shrikant role or they are like, Mahinder Amarnath, who wants to be on the wicket for longer period by tuk. Just to add.
I think it's a very, very important point. And whether you look at the FIFA World Cup that is happening, that midfield, or as you gave the example of cricket, which is the middle order, I think they are the backbone in my view. And now, my experience, the way I look at it, the way I see it, that in most of the organizations where they are not so matured, what they do when the individual contributor are great performers, they typically promote them into the manager's role, and then they struggle, and then after certain point of time they eventually become the middle management, and that's why it becomes a very weak middle management in the organization. On the other hand, the requirement of the organization is extremely high because they are sandwiched between top management in one side, other way it is the frontliner on the other side. So they have to create that perfect balance between how to translate the strategy formed by the top management and how to understand that and take it forward to the front line, communicate them in such a manner so that they're able to deliver. At the same time, the middle management is also responsible for the delivery. So I think it's a very, very unique and important role because it's a combination of all. And where I would typically urge the organization that where you typically promote people, I think it starts from the first level managers that don't promote people just because they are fantastic individual contributor. You have to have the right mechanism in place in terms of identifying their potential as a manager, and then once they become the manager or to be managers, then create a perfect training program of a first line manager so that they understand the people priority and the business priority on the equal stance, and then equip them with the people management. Only when that happens, that will become a pipeline for your strong middle management, and then they will move forward.
Great point. Yes, Prem.
I mean, Sudipto, all fabulous points. I couldn't disagree on anything. Just one point to add to that, while organization drives that decision and the platform for people to raise their hand for middle management as first line or second line, I also want to call out the individuals. It is your responsibility equally to figure out, are you cut out for this job? Because many top individual contributors believe that I can be a great manager and pushes the organization, Sudipto. Because so puts the pressure back on the company to say, if you don't promote me into that role, I'm leaving. So company is also under pressure to do that. So my question always to individuals is that, think about it. And I've had experiences in my life, great individual contributors, top 5, Amit, top 5, becoming bottom 5 managers.
Correct.
And we don't want that to happen. So ensure that whoever raises the hand to be a manager. So opportunity will always be there. The company will always throw the opportunity, but it's up to the individual eventually to decide. I think Arti talked about development plan. What's your plan? What's your strength? And work according to that and have a goal, 2 years, 3 years, incremental goal, and work towards it. And if people management, if you believe, some companies, Sudipto, I've also seen, they give an opportunity like shadowing somebody else to become an interim manager for a period of time to become manager readiness, right? Program. So try it out for 6 months and see, because I always say, I am complicated. I have to handle more complicated people like me. So it's not easy job, right? To be the conveyor of information, the manager to drive outcomes, and also take care of people that depend on you. So you have a huge amount of responsibility. So I think that's a big challenge, opportunity, and a threat at the same time for individuals and the company.
One thing I'd like to add on to this is also, I think Sudhir would agree to this, that of late, there are probably 2 decades back, there was not enough hierarchies or paths created for individuals to be growing on the individual cadre role. And I think with more advent of different roles and things, there has been a option available, and the entire industry has to be credited for it to create more IC tracks for growth, which has resulted
in a parallel career that we call it.
Yes.
Specialized career path.
And therefore, management or being the people manager is not the only killer, and I think that's something that we as leaders should promote more to enable certain growth paths.
Right.
So how to equip mid managers to handle Gen Z?
See, if the mid managers are married with kids and sensitive, then that should be the answer. No, on a lighter note, I think it's not just the middle management. I think it's more prevalent for even top management. See, the moment we have more experience, we come with a lot of baggages.
Correct.
And we stop accepting new ideas. We think what we have seen, that's the best way. I think there's a huge problem with the experienced people. More the experience, more the problem. That how do remove our baggages? So if you are able to create that culture or create that, I don't know whether training program will help. I think because it was more internal. I think that's what I think will create more, open to ideas, more open to inclusion, and you'll create the environment of a diversity of thoughts. But today that is not happening, and coaching can play a huge role on that. If you start training top management, as a coaching skill, then they will stop telling, then stop directing without even listening.
Correct.
I think reverse mentoring also plays a role. If you allow the Gen Zs to kind of reverse mentor some of the leaders, that also has a good impact on how people. So, to a point, what Sudipto mentioned about coaching, I think getting reverse helps. And the other thing is, I would say that while Gen Z comes with a different set of expectations because they have seen the world from a very different lens when they were born or they grew up, there are a lot of technology that was already available considering the other generations. If we, the purpose or meaning defines everything, like Arti mentioned, if everybody comes to work to do work and get meaning out of it, that remains consistent. So there are certain things that remain consistent. How do we kind of allude to that for and make sure that those are points that are harped on rather than being stuck on to things as Sudhir rightly said, baggage for the experienced people. How do you shed that load of baggage and move on is going to be critical.
So Amit, I have a small perspective here. See, if you notice in the initial intervention of mine, I used a term on the job. Now here also, I'm just sharing with you some of the practices which I'm seeing, at least I'm practicing, and they are working well, that when we are in discussions, how do we moderate those discussions where we encourage and allow youngsters to bring their perspectives, and I'm using a term perspectives, and through the moderation. Also, you will notice the Gen Z, when they speak something, maybe they say very quick things in very few words. Now we also have to build, a practice when we, through a moderation, of such discussions of meetings, we allow them to, bring their full perspective to the table, make everybody listen, and develop a culture of perspectives. And I have written about it, so I'm practicing this, so I'm just sharing with all of you. Life is about perspective, not right or wrong. So when seniors are there, the youngsters are there, first thing we have to allow youngsters to speak, bring their perspective to the table. 1. 2, very clearly we should help them how to communicate, what to communicate. Sometimes they are very abrupt and very abrupt. So the seniors take offense. So now somebody has to play the role of moderator and mature them that you are saying right, but I think this is what you meant to say, and then facilitate that process. And also among the seniors, we have to make them understand the life is about perspectives. वो हमारे जमाने में doesn't work today. That era is over. So even if we don't have an attitude to learn from youngsters, we should develop an attitude and culture of engaging, across generations. And that is to me, it is through moderation of various forums, various sessions, maybe conduct some sessions where everybody, you do structured discussions, where structured brainstorming, when every person is supposed to bring something to the table and somebody let be the moderator. So I think these are few things, and my focus always has been on hands-on, through the practice on the job.
Prem, you also had a perspective, I believe, on this.
Yeah, I mean, so most importantly, what I do is I spend a lot of time with them. That's the best way. So it's because I can't comprehend otherwise. It's very difficult because I have 38 plus years experience. Middle management has 15 years of experience. They find it difficult. So I relate stories. So storytelling to a large extent will bring some essence to people. I listen a lot to these comers, especially entry-level people, first grade, second grade, because they bring a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and they bring new tools to our workspace, which we are not great with, right? So on the social media, how you brand, how you actually position yourself. So they have a lot of strengths that they bring. So what I do is, and I also tell my managers and leaders to spend time with them, understand them, and everything has been discussed. The rest have been all discussed here of what we need to do, because at the end of the day, we need them. Yeah, I can share my stories, but it has no relevance anymore. How I started with my briefcase walking on the road. People are expecting today when they come, they need an office space, air conditioning. Those are all bare minimum today, right? And then I need my comfort of being at home, wherever I want to work. So those things were very different. So many people cannot comprehend. And this is a very big myth, I think, a myth, mindset shift. Very difficult. Everybody talks about it. It's great on a PPT when you talk about mindset shift. We ourselves, if you question ourselves, how much have we changed? What are the areas we can change? I have a big gap. I'm unable to change many things. Right? So how do you expect others to change that? Right? So I think questioning these and getting some responses to these kind of scenarios will give us that maturity, not to solve problems, but also come to some senses in the middle, 50-50, and say, okay, probably this is the best way to go. And I always reach out to my peer group in the industry. How are they handling things? And again, we have a multi-industry mix here. Marine is very different from ITeS, is very different from IT companies to Indian to global. So there are so many parameters that come into picture. I don't think we can solve that with just few words here and there, but it's about understanding the perspectives outside and trying to do what is best and bringing people. So what one can do is get folks from different sectors, levels, and industries into some discussion. Because then you will be able to probably arrive at some common forum or value and outcome that can make sense for everybody.
To see the final thing, mindset change is what we specialize in using our brain rewiring techniques. I can give a personal demo to each one of you separately later on and maybe explain how these techniques work. I think I have given to Sudhir ji maybe. So anyway, so thank you panelists. Thanks for giving us so much time and all the attendees. It was a great discussion. And we have to maintain the time limit, and we have already exceeded by around 12 minutes. But thanks everyone for joining. Had a great discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the participation.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amit.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.